You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken tech for your ears.
Welcome back. If your calendar looks anything like ours, you've probably got this massive pile of reading just to keep up with everything that's shifting in digital defense and offense.
It's relentless, isn't it? Every single week there's a new exposure or some stealthy new tool that just makes you rethink everything you thought you knew.
Absolutely. And what you've pulled together for us here is a collection of the highest impact events.
Yeah.
We're talking about attacks affecting tens of millions of people on one hand.
And then these incredibly targeted next-gen pieces of software on the other. Our job today is really to connect those dots for you.
Exactly. We want you to walk away feeling informed, not just buried in information. Our mission is to cut through it all. We'll go from the huge financial toll of these mass data leaks all the way down into the kernel of a Linux box.
And then all the way back up to the billion-dollar corporate strategies trying to fight back.
It's a huge scope, but that's what we do here. So let's start with the cost, right? The immediate human cost of these compromises.
Yeah, that's what really drives the change. And the scale of these recent data exposures is just sobering.
Okay, let's jump into the Aflac situation first. They just disclosed a breach of their U.S. network, and it goes all the way back to June 2025.
And the numbers are huge. 22.65 million individuals.
But it's the type of information that's so worrying. This isn't just email addresses.
No, not at all. This was the crown jewels. Names, addresses, IDs, social security numbers, and the critical part, medical and insurance details.
That's the perfect cocktail for long-term, really damaging identity fraud.
It is. I will say Aflac did manage to contain it before it became a ransomware incident, so that's a small win, I guess.
A very small win. They're offering 2 years of fraud monitoring, but when your social security number's out there for life, 2 years feels a little bit like a Band-Aid.
It really highlights that gap between the legal fix and the actual long-term harm, and they weren't the only ones. We also saw Condé Nast dealing with that hacker. Lovely.
Oh, right. Claiming to have breached their whole user database, leaking, 2.3 million records?
And threatening to dump 40 million more from brands like Vogue. I mean, these are titans of industry still struggling with the basics.
But the award for the most controversial fix has to go to Coupang, the South Korean e-commerce giant. This is where it gets really interesting.
So Coupang had a massive data leak. 33.7 million account holders.
Wow.
To fix it, they announced this huge compensation package, 1.69 trillion won, which is about $1.18 billion. And at first you hear that number and you think, okay, that's real accountability.
But then you read the fine print.
Then you see the asterisk, that billion-plus dollars. It's all in the form of 50,000 won vouchers.
Vouchers that are only usable.
Only usable on Coupang's own platform.
Wait a minute. So they're turning a legal crisis into a marketing opportunity, forcing the victims to spend money with them.
That is precisely the controversy. It's legally brilliant, maybe, but ethically, it's so questionable. Critics are arguing that they've just incentivized compromised customers to stay in their ecosystem.
You're forcing people to re-engage with the very company that lost their data. I can see why that sparked consumer anger in parliamentary hearings.
It just brings up that big unanswered question. How do you properly compensate someone for losing their privacy? A store voucher just doesn't feel like the right answer.
Agreed. Well, while privacy loss is abstract, direct financial loss is not. And that brings us straight into Web3 and the trust wallet crypto drain.
A staggering loss. Roughly $8.5 million in crypto, all siphoned out through their Google Chrome extension.
And the how here is what's so important. This wasn't someone guessing a password. This was the second version of a supply chain attack they're calling Shai-Hulud.
It's a good name for it from Dune, because the compromise was deep inside the infrastructure like a sandworm. The attackers got malicious packages published to trusted repositories.
Like NPM and PyPI.
Exactly. The fundamental building blocks that developers use every day. They trust them implicitly.
So by poisoning the well, they got the malicious code right into the developer's environment.
And then, straight into the Trust Wallet extension itself, the user updates their extension and boom, the code runs, grabs the credentials, and drains the assets.
Which is why we're always hammering on about supply chain integrity in our Web3 Wednesday segments here at the Vocal Technologist.
Yeah.
You just can't trust dependencies blindly.
That risk is everywhere,
Yeah.
not just in crypto. Look at that critical flaw we just saw in MongoDB.
Yeah, that one makes me nervous because it's unauthenticated, right? It's just wide open to anyone on the network.
And it's so subtle. The flaw isn't even in the main database code. It's in how MongoDB uses the zlib compression library, which is a standard trusted tool.
Okay, so how does that work?
An attacker sends these specially crafted compressed messages to the database. And over time, little by little, those messages let them pull sensitive data right out of the server's memory.
Sensitive data like user info, passwords.
Exactly.
Yeah.
User authentication tokens, API keys, passwords, internal configs. It's not a big, loud data dump. It's a slow, quiet drain. You don't even know you're bleeding data until it's gone.
It's like a digital siphon. So for anyone managing these databases, what's the immediate must-do action item?
Patch. Immediately. Update to the patch releases of MongoDB right now. And if you can, close unnecessary ports and think about disabling zlib compression entirely until you're sure you're clean.
Okay, so we've covered millions of affected users, millions of dollars drained. Now, let's go even deeper. Let's go from the application layer straight down into the kernel to talk about this Singularity Linux rootkit.
This is really the cutting edge of what adversaries are doing. Singularity isn't just malware. It's like a piece of defensive engineering for the attacker. It uses legitimate kernel features.
Specifically ftrace, right? For something called syscall hooking.
Yeah, let's break that down. Think of the kernel as the central command of the operating system. A system call, or syscall, is just an app asking the kernel to do something, like open a file.
Got it.
ftrace is a normal tool developers use to watch those requests happen for debugging. Singularity abuses it. It hooks those syscalls to intercept every single request.
So it can lie. You ask to see all the running processes.
And Singularity just removes itself from the list before it hands it back to you. It hides its processes, its files, its network connections, its logs, everything.
A complete cover-up.
Mm.
But the detail that makes this a real nightmare for defenders is the dual architecture support.
Right. By 8664 and IA32, this is so important. Historically, a lot of rootkits would only hook the common 64-bit system calls.
And the classic bypass for an investigator was to run a simple 32-bit tool.
Exactly. Because that 32-bit call would take a different path to the kernel, bypass the hook, and you'd see the hidden files. It was the go-to trick.
But not anymore.
Not with Singularity. It hooks both architectures. That simple bypass is just gone. It shows the attackers are thinking like seasoned forensic investigators.
Its anti-forensics are so good that if you're just scanning the disk for bad files, you'll find nothing. Singularity has already lied to your scanner.
Which means the big takeaway here for anyone managing critical Linux systems is you have to move beyond file scanning. You need memory-based forensics. You have to monitor for those unauthorized traced hooks.
And test your systems with both 32-bit and 64-bit tools. You have to assume the adversary is this clever.
You have to.
That's a great blueprint for technical defense. Now, let's pull all the way back up to strategic defense, the kind that takes billions of dollars and a complete cultural reset. I'm talking about Equifax.
The 2017 breach was legendary in the worst way, but what they did afterward was one of the most comprehensive security transformations we've ever seen.
A $3 billion overhaul. It wasn't just patching systems, it was a complete migration to the cloud, and, this is the key, eliminating all their legacy infrastructure.
Can you even imagine the logistics of that for a company that size? It's incredible.
But the really interesting part wasn't just the tech, it was the cultural shift. They tied employee bonuses for the entire company to security metrics.
So if security fails, everyone's paycheck takes a hit.
Exactly. It forces ownership from the top all the way to the bottom. And they started publishing these incredibly detailed annual security reports, sharing their metrics with the public.
That level of transparency is almost unheard of, but it creates accountability. And the threat volume they're dealing with now is just mind-boggling. They say they neutralize 15 million threats a day.
That's 175 threats per second, up 25% from 2023.
It just shows you can't stand still. So, looking at what they did, there are a few key lessons. First, your CISO has to be on a management committee. Security can't be an afterthought.
That's the political part. What about the tech strategy?
It has to be hybrid. You need the smart AI-powered behavioral tools, but you still need traditional signature-based stuff. Relying on just one is a recipe for failure. And with deepfakes on the rise, biometric authentication is becoming non-negotiable.
Right. And speaking of sophisticated tools, let's look at the other side, how attackers are adapting, even weaponizing things we think of as safe, like Cloudflare workers.
Yeah, Cloudflare workers are just standard serverless code snippets, benign stuff, usually for content delivery. But red teams are now using them for what they call conditional access payload delivery.
So they're hiding their malicious code inside trusted cloud infrastructure.
Precisely. The payload just sits there inside a service your security team probably trusts until the exact right conditions are met. Maybe a specific IP address or a secret header. It's a huge shift.
Weaponizing the things we're supposed to trust. We also saw the release of SIL-P.
The stealthy in-memory local password harvester. This is a red team tool that dumps critical Windows credentials, LSA secrets, SAM hashes entirely in memory.
Meaning no trace on the disk for investigators to find later.
That's the goal, pure in-memory credential theft. It makes post-compromise forensics incredibly difficult.
On the defensive side, we are seeing new platforms like Cyphero pop up to try and manage the explosion of AI in the enterprise.
Which is non-negotiable. As companies use more AI agents, you need governance. Cyphero is designed to be that security layer, to verify and govern all the AI interactions, even the shadow AI stuff, to stop data loss.
You can't just let the agents run free.
Not if you want to keep your data.
Right.
And finally, a small but really symbolic win for security modernization. Microsoft is finally dropping support for the RC4 cipher.
The one that was the default in Active Directory for, 26 years? It's been a source of so many headaches for so long.
Its retirement is a very slow but necessary step. It forces companies to finally clean up their cryptographic house.
So to wrap this all up,
Yeah.
we've seen the staggering personal cost with the 22 million people caught in the Aflac breach. We saw the sophistication of supply chain attacks with Shai-Hulud draining $8.5 million.
And we dove into the critical need for kernel-level awareness with threats like the Singularity rootkit. It's clear that both sides, offense and defense, are getting incredibly technical.
Yeah, and for you, the person listening who is trying to stay on top of all this, remember that advice from the material you shared with us about goal setting for 2026.
Don't just make a list of things to learn, create a system.
Exactly. Schedule recurring blocks of time for study. And find an accountability partner, a mentor or a friend, someone to keep you on track. It's the only way to actually make those big goals stick.
That structured approach is how you keep up. And that whole conversation we had about Cloudflare workers being repurposed really highlights a critical shift. Defenders can't just patch operating systems anymore. You have to think about how common, benign cloud services can be turned against you.
So that's the final thought we'll leave you with today. What a highly trusted infrastructure is on your team's network right now. Something you think is safe because it's just a service. Could that be the next unexpected attack vector? Something to think about. Thanks again for sharing your information collection with us for this analysis.
Spoken Tech for your ears.